Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and The Last of Us Part 2 is the post-apocalyptic fix I need in 2018. Sony is coming out with another post-apocalyptic title in 2018 called Days Gone. When I look at the post-apocalyptic genre in general, what I tend to enjoy from it is the human element. Now, Days Gone has a lot of zombies, and I'm not saying it doesn't have that human element, but that's why I love Fallout so much. Granted, there are mutants crawling around, but my favorite part is interacting with the community, seeing how they're getting by, how they're overcoming the struggle, or maybe merely how they're simply living with the struggle. The Last of Us Part 2's most recent demo really sold me on that idea of trying to survive in a post-apocalyptic setting. What I saw in front of me was a desperate situation, people who I knew nothing about who now seem to be brand new playable characters, which is pretty cool in its own right, being captured, tortured in brutal fashion in stuff I haven't really seen in recent memory in video games. Now, it's not that we've been short on post-apocalyptic titles. A lot of people have been asking me about Elix, which is a title I don't think I'll be getting around to, but I also played Horizon Zero Dawn earlier this year, one of my favorite titles in 2017, and one of the best modern post-apocalyptic universes that I've experienced. But for all I loved about Horizon's universe, it didn't have that human element to some extent. It was more so about the machines, how they got there, how they were corrupted. In The Last of Us Part 2, I can see that the world is screwed, man. People are messed up, and this is just what you have to deal with, and if you get caught in that shitstorm, you're probably gonna be dying. Obviously, every post-apocalyptic world has its share of mutants, monsters, whatever, and The Last of Us Part 2 seems to have its clickers, sadly yet again, because they killed me a ton in the first one, but with what I saw, I was there, man. I was engaged. I was crossing my fingers that the blonde character would not die. Despite knowing nothing about her, she could have been a stone cold murderer for all I knew, but that's how well done the storytelling was for that cutscene. Now, I don't know about everyone else out there, but I sit more on the side of the fence where I enjoyed Naughty Dog's The Last of Us way more than Uncharted. I like the darker tone that they take. I like the themes they explore in The Last of Us, and quite honestly, I've always found Uncharted to be a bit repetitive. What was most cool about this trailer was that it looked amazing without showing Ellie and Joel. When we saw the first ever Last of Us demo, we saw Ellie and Joel. When we saw the first Last of Us Part 2 trailer, it was Ellie and Joel again. This time around, when we're actually seeing in-game cutscenes, it wasn't them, and people were freaking out over the game because of just how good it looked. Not visually, but also performance-wise. It was so believable what was happening in front of you. What I'm looking most forward to with this title is the gameplay advancements I know they will inevitably make, because The Last of Us had really heavy melee combat, but also some visceral gunplay. Coupled with excellent sound design, I loved firing off a revolver as Joel and watching a chunk of the enemy's head fly off. I'm also curious on the other side of the spectrum if The Last of Us Part 2 will be carrying the multiplayer on yet again from the first one, because a lot of people did play and also enjoy the multiplayer in The Last of Us 1. It had unique survival elements built into it, and as you fought for your own camp, it removed that tried and true feeling of familiarity in a lot of these multiplayer modes that are tossed into primarily single player focused games. So long as it does not dilute the storytelling like we talked about with Wolfenstein 2, then I'm all for the multiplayer coming back in The Last of Us Part 2. One thing we talked about on the podcast is similar to, for example, Final Fantasy 15, where the multiplayer expansion for that title is coming out well after the single player is out and all of its single player DLC is coming out. If Naughty Dog were to double down, focus solely on storytelling, solely on that single player experience, say, all right, after launch, we're doing the multiplayer, we'll bring it to you in a separate expansion to extend that replayability, to extend the life of the product itself, I think a lot of us would be on board for it. Overall though, from what we saw at the Paris Games Week trailer, I can already tell, man, this game at some point is gonna break my heart, because The Last of Us 1 is a rare experience for me, because I won't spoil anything, but I'll just say that I didn't like the ending when I first played it in 2013. Now in 2017, I thought about it so much over the course of a bunch of years, and it's grown with me where I was like, you know, that was such a good ending in many ways, where I actually like it a lot now, and I never had that experience as a gamer. There have been many titles out there that I have thought to myself, all right, I didn't like it then, I like it now. But with The Last of Us, it was a matter of perspective, different ways of thinking, and how you approach the ending. So to say I'm intrigued by The Last of Us would be a understatement at the very minimum. What do you think of The Last of Us Part 2? I know you guys out there love your post-apocalyptic titles, so I'm curious to see what you have to say in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook, those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that as it fuels all the content we create here. Stay sexy, stay active, I love you all, peace.